I'm at another technology conference. Behind me is the landscape of the Hyatt Regency in Dallas, Texas. And talking with a colleague of mine, and this is being recorded sort of mid-October in 2023. And the week before, well, this conference is the Honeywell Connect. Honeywell Connected Enterprise is now a 5-year-old uh, business unit of Honeywell, the corporation, and it's cross-platform. So the rest of Honeywell is broken into different business units, and this one actually helps all the other business units plus a number of outside customers. Um, many and more they hope. Uh, the week before was the Emerson conference, which was different from any they've had in the past. It was sponsored only by the Control and Software Group, and I wasn't invited. I did not go. The week before that was Inductive Automation Ignition Customer Conference, and that is pretty much all software. There are some hardware vendors that are part of the ecosystem, but that was software. And before that, earlier in the summer, was the Honeywell Process Control. I was at Siemens Digital, which is a software arm of Digital, and so on. So there've been a number of things coming up, and then a bunch of press releases from Rockwell Automation. And talking with a colleague of mine that I've known for at least 20 years, if not more, we were talking about the evolution of the marketplace that we serve in this particular industry of industrial manufacturing, processing kinds of businesses, and he basically asked, why is everyone going to digital or to software? What's this deal about software? All these companies, except for Inductive Automation, which was started as a software company, and they do what they do. But anyway, why? Why is it software? There's greater margins in software, but that's only if you look at financials in a certain way. The investment in software is upfront, and all the code writing and testing and all the stuff you have to do there. The direct cost of sales is much less. In fact, it used to be a disk, and now it's like download. Whereas the direct cost of sales of hardware is the cost of all the stuff that goes into that hardware thing. But so gross profit is a misnomer in software industry. But yeah, maybe it is more profitable. Maybe it is that Wall Street likes software more than hardware. And so I came to this Honeywell software event, wondering the same thing as my friend Greg. Why is it that companies seem to like software? And interestingly enough, this podcast is sponsored by my longtime sponsor, and I appreciate the longevity and the support they've given me and the industry. That's the fine folks from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system, like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, mobile-first flexibility, intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size, and also, importantly, any industry, which is interesting. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. And now you can have the power of Ignition and the cloud. So some time ago now, Ignition Cloud Edition was released to make it easier to add the power of cloud to your Ignition architectures. Extend and hybridize your enterprise operations, leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down, securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted platforms on a pay-as-you-go plan. And at the Ignition conference 2 weeks ago, they announced some additions to the licensing and so on for Ignition Cloud Edition, which brought applause from the customer audience. So check it out at inductiveautomation.com. Thinking about software, most of these companies, when we get a press release, the editors and writers, analysts, the company will say, XX company, comma, and they'll put a tagline that describes the company in like 7 words or less. And lately, for the last few years, most of the traditional automation companies have added the word software. So, comma, automation and software company. And several years ago, an executive at Emerson said, well, we do it, of course, because Wall Street likes software. They think software is fancy and up to date and everything, and they'll value us a little bit better than if we were an old line, quote unquote, hardware vendor. So interestingly enough, the original Honeywell Process Systems Users Group, called HUG, Honeywell Users Group, HUG, yeah, a lot of the typical kinds of hardware, but not really pushed a lot. And a lot of it had to do with different kinds of software that enable all the things going on. At Siemens event, well, it was Siemens Digital, so they didn't sell PLCs there, but that group brings together some of the companies they've acquired over many years that do CAD, CAM, that kind of design software that interfaces with other manufacturing software, and then what we would call MES, execution system layer software, and Internet of Things and that sort of thing, all brought together, and talked about, you know, how the growth of the software business within Siemens is very healthy, at least at the time. And, you know, Inductive Automation is a software company. And when Steve Hechtman, and by the way, 20 years, on my blog, themanufacturingconnection.com, you can see a write-up I did on Inductive Automation 20 years. And it was 20 years ago in September, I met Steve Hechtman, the founder and visionary of the company, at an ISA show. Remember shows? And we chatted, and he told me what he was trying to do. And I walked away and thought I had an impression of Steve, which was totally wrong. And but he talked about being IT friendly software, which was really unusual for industrial software 20 years ago. Well, in fact, it was unheard of 20 years ago. And also using modern databases. They wrote the thing in Java. There was you know, a whole new approach, and the other new approach was pricing. He had been a Wonderware distributor integrator, and he really didn't like the pricing model, and he didn't feel it was fair, in his opinion, and probably many others. At any rate, he wanted a whole new pricing model, started Inductive Automation, and that was 2003. In 2011, I had made a trip out to Sacramento, California, and sat down in the offices of Inductive at the time and talked to the first 2 developers working on that software, University of California Davis graduates who were specialized in database software and that sort of thing. You know, Colby Clegg and Carl Gould. Now Colby is the CEO and Carl is the CTO. But I sat down, I put a recorder on the conference room table and turned it on, and we had a conversation, and I have a link to that recording on that site, manufacturingconnection.com. And also later on, just I don't know, about 18 months ago or so, Don Pearson, who's the Chief Strategy Officer of Inductive, called me and wanted to record a conversation, which we did, and updated everything. We talked about IoT and MQTT and all kinds of things like that. And I put a link to that one in there too. So that's a hint of some directions for software. And some people have tried to copy. I've seen a couple of old line, you know, traditional industrial software companies trying to copy the business model, the pricing model that Inductive does. And it hasn't gone over that well. Inductive is doing quite well, and so far. So going on from there, then last week I got a lot of news from Emerson. It was a vastly scaled down event. They only had a couple of editor types people there, and actually not a lot of analysts there either. It was a pretty scaled down event, and the news coming out of it, especially one that was intriguing, talking about software defined. software defined control, software defined IO, software, defined things, um, such as that, more of an emphasis on software as part of their control system. And I found that interesting because it really mirrors what the Open Process Automation Forum is trying to do. Emerson is not part of OPAF. Actually, neither is Honeywell, where I'm standing right now, sort of. But anyway, there was an awful lot of software there, and now I'm at a new division of Honeywell, 5 years old this month, which is software. It's their software division. And so, why is that? And I think, a lot of it is just the changing technologies and where things are going. I had a great conversation with a VP general manager of the connected industry business. He does cybersecurity too, at that level. And so I asked him, what did he think? And I've been talking with the Arduino people here lately. And for a long time, I've thought about the stuff you can do with an Arduino now. So we keep talking about a workplace, workforce uh, problem of retirements and new engineers coming in, and hopefully we can convince more new engineers to come in. But those new engineers are going to look at that really expensive big hunk of plastic and metal and proprietary stuff all over that they can buy from any of the established major vendors. And they'll look and they'll say, well, I can do this with an Arduino, and I can write a program in kind of whatever. And it's easy to hook up an Ethernet cable, for example, or maybe something better, and do a lot of this stuff that you're doing. Why would I need to buy all the Rockwell hardware, the control logics, or even the lower level control logics platforms, when I can do it far cheaper, and it's far more amenable to me and what I want done and that sort of thing? And more of the value is in software. If more of the value is in software, why do I spend an awful lot of money on hardware? And it's something to think about. So I asked Sunil, the VP I was talking to, and he said, well, you're probably onto something. It is true that new engineers coming in will have new ideas, and they'll take a look at some of this stuff, and they'll ask about the price and the cost and the flexibility and things like that, and say, hey, let's just buy a couple $100 worth of Arduino and put in the system. So I'm thinking new engineers coming in with new ideas and taking a look at just rethinking the whole control architecture thing. And that puts more emphasis on software because it is software. The way things are moving. And so maybe that's why. I don't know. I don't know what the CTOs and CEOs of the vendors population are really thinking these days. They're going to tell me one thing, but not necessarily everything they're thinking. But my impression is that software is becoming more and more important, and it's probably too late for some of these companies that have a business model based on selling software a certain way when the world is moving a whole different way. And it's hard to restructure your whole organization and finances and compensation and sales and all that kind of stuff with a different kind of software. So I'm really curious about give it just a few more years, we get some more younger engineers in with new ways of thinking, and what may happen to this marketplace that I've been serving for the last 25 years. And I've seen just huge changes over time. I expect to see more, and I think maybe the next huge change will be the control platform and the importance, even more importance on software. And then the question there becomes, how will all of these big established players adapt, or will they? I don't know. That's a question to consider. This is Gary Minchell. This is more thoughts on manufacturing and industrial technology. And this podcast, as always, is brought to you with support of Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, mobile-first flexibility, intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. By the way, in my write-up about the Ignition Community Conference, I referenced some projects that were done that were not industrial, but were very, very cool. One was a way of coordinating homeless shelters in a city in Tennessee. You can be innovative. And now you can have the power of Ignition in the cloud with Cloud Edition. And you can extend your architecture and deploy solutions in the world's most trusted cloud platforms on a pay-as-you-go plan. Inductiveautomation.com. Scary Mitchell. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Be a little kinder to those around you and go raise a ruckus.